Hello and welcome to the great outdoors. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to be taking you to some old dirt roads in the northern part of Coffee County, into a small community called the Victoria community. In this community there's a lot of hills and small mountains, and in these small mountains there are some terrific views. And we will go out there and we'll check out the old country dirt roads. As you see, the leaves here in South Alabama are beginning to change. See some reds and some yellows, and it really adds more color to the already gorgeous flowers that are in bloom here in South Alabama. Like we talked about earlier, the yellows and the purples, the whites, the reds, they become even more gorgeous when they mix with the red and the yellows of the trees. We're on an old County Road 526 when we started finding these large waves of grass that look like grain, with these red headed seeds on them. And we found some beautiful snapdragons, wild snapdragons, and they're yellow. And this is the time of year for them to bloom. They're just a gorgeous bloom. Each one of these blooms will turn into a seed pod with a number of seeds inside. These beautiful tiny white flowers and yellows and golds that just line the sides of the roads on these old dirt roads. Some of these are flowers that were found in homesteads, and they were just, when the houses disappeared, they were just left, and they continue to grow on their own. These are those giant daisies. Some of these daisies grow as tall as 6-8 feet. These are blooms for those daisies. They're just so beautiful this time of year. I love old dirt roads. There's the things that you can find down old dirt roads are old abandoned bridges and buildings and just things that can take you back to a time where things seem to be a lot simpler. And of course, the wildflowers are just beautiful. In the Victoria community, there's a lot of hills and small foothills, the mountains. You don't see this view in Florida. So looking from one mountain to another, here's some of these red trees that are beginning to change colors, and it's just beautiful down some of these old dirt roads. Of course, to me, the forests and trees, especially the hardwoods, are beautiful any time of the year. But now when the reds and the yellows and the oranges are popping up, it's just gorgeous. Here's more of the snapdragons. What a beautiful flower that has put out. These are just the sunflower. And these snapdragons Each one of the yellow flowers turns into a pod that contains numerous seeds. These are more sunflowers. And these just grow wild on the side of the road. Just gorgeous oranges and yellows and purples. And the reds are thrown in there. They're not as predominant as the yellows and purples. Again, the view looking down into the valley and the large hills on the distance. This is an old country house that we have found. It's still in operation. There's still power to it. It's definitely old, and it's down this dirt road. And along the sides of the road are just abundant of different types of flowers. This is another old house that we found down a dirt road. That's a well. Most of the buildings that you see around these old dirt roads are either been abandoned or just so old that they're just unsafe. But they sure bring back memories of old times. This is a turn of the century church. It is still in operation. It is the Pleasant Ridge Primitive Baptist Church. There's a lot of history in this church, and it sits on a beautiful piece of property. And with these old churches, they have old graveyards. And we took the opportunity to go in and check these old grave sites, and you'd be surprised what you find. Some of these grave sites are so primitive that there is no markings, just old stones that were put in to mark the actual ground where the body was placed. But this is one beautiful little church. It's still in operation. It's not a church that operates every Sunday. They have a preacher that still rides the circuit, and they may be here once a month. But this is the cemetery, and it seems like all the old churches had cemeteries attached to their property. Now this is looking out the back of the church, a field with cows and a valley that you could see hills miles away. And this is looking at the church from the side. You can see the churches back then were very small, and we headed into the cemetery. And on the outside of the cemetery was this stone in remembrance of Olin Edward McCullough. This tombstone here dated back to early 1800s. As you can see here, this person died in 1898 and the other one died in 1893. I'm on children's grave. I'm way back. Well, I want to thank you for joining us. And hopefully you got a little bit out of this. You know, if you really have any time, old grave sites can give you a lot of insight into history. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time here in the Great Outdoors.